5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
Anything can happen in the next half hour. Stand by for action.
Considered by many to be Britain's Walt Disney, Gerry Anderson has produced and fronted some of the most well-known shows Britain has ever produced. With mind-boggling effects, heartwarming stories, and enough technology to fill an entire university, the programmes and merchandising of Century 21 Productions has gone on to become a multi-million-pound industry. After progressing through roles at the studios he was working for, in 1947 Anderson was called up for his national service, as were all men of his generation at some point in their lives. Anderson decided to join the RAF, and was posted to RAF Manston, which would later serve as the seeds of inspiration when he returned to Civvy Street. By the 1950s, Anderson was back in filmmaking and formed AP Films with cameraman Arthur Proves, part-time secretary Sylvia Tam, and two designers, Reg Hill and John Reed. After a string of small-time successes, which were The Adventures of Twizzle, Porchy the Battery Boy, and Four Feather Falls, Anderson hit his stride with Supercar. Supercar was a science fiction series about an all-terrain vehicle and its pilot Mike Mercury, set in the far future. What set the series above the rest in both the eyes of the children and investors were the advanced marionettes. They used a process named by Anderson as super marionation, in which a solenoid controlled the movements of the puppet's mouth so they opened and closed in sync with the dialogue. The series was bought by media mogul Lou Grade. Grade was huge. The big boss. He is said to have created modern television with his company ITC, which would fund British television series like The Saint or Supercar with a blank cheque, and then sell them to the highest American network bidder. Fireball XL5 starring astronaut Steve Zodiac was next, with the puppets beginning to become more adult, whilst merchandising took off too, with models of the ships, puppets, toys, and games all available.
We are about to launch Stingray.
The next series, Stingray, was bigger and better than anything Anderson and AP Films had produced. It had to be, with the series for sale in America, the standards were set higher than ever, and Anderson responded with the first series ever to be filmed in colour. Meanwhile, Anderson and the team at AP Films created and published a comic all about their shows named TV Century 21. The new British comic flew off the shelves, selling 600,000 copies a week, and featuring the daring exploits of such characters as Steve Zodiac, Troy Tempest, and providing a launch pad for
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
Thunderbirds blasted onto TV screens on the 30th of September 1965 with an episode budget of £40,000, making it one of the most expensive television shows ever produced. In fact, in today's money, each episode will cost £687,132 to make. Following a board meeting with Grade, in which he stated that the pilot was not a television series, but a feature film, Grade instructed that each episode had to be reworked to an hour. With 9 already shot, the process was draining for all at APF, but it was worth it. Thunderbirds was a smash hit. The children connected with its blend of both science fiction and espionage, in which were heavily popular with the youth of the time. The popular space-age craft were made of plywood and pieces from plastic modelling kits, saving both time and money. The merchandising arm of APF was almost swamped with licensing requests, and the merchandising that followed was instantly snapped up by children. Gerry was the first person to have a full merchandising operation linked to a TV series or film, and that was something very impressive for the time. You could buy the obvious models, the dress-up outfits, the comics, and the books. There were even plasticine kits and tea sets. It was the biggest merchandising boom the world had ever seen. In fact, no one would see anything like it until the Star Wars trilogy, a decade later.
It's New Zoom from Lion's Mane.
By 1966, Thunderbirds was the most popular children's show of the year, and, with he and his company worth around £300 million, Anderson's next step was to go to the big screen. Funded by the producers of James Bond, United Artists, the film was set to be the Christmas film of the year. It was in fact a big risk. No one had ever seen a television series on the cinema screen. However, confidence was high. A United Artists boardman at the premiere of the film said to Gerry that he couldn't make up his mind as to whether Thunderbirds would be bigger than James Bond or not. The film surprisingly failed. Anderson's biggest show went into dry dock after just 32 episodes, ending with the Christmas special Give or Take $1 Million. Meanwhile, Anderson responded with a more advanced and chilling series. Captain Scarlet was the usual Anderson hit. It didn't hit the big time like Thunderbirds, but it was still a considerable success. It ushered in a new breed of supermarionation puppet, those with naturally sized heads rather than the caricature of Thunderbirds. The studio itself also had a spring clean, with the name changing from AP Films to Century 21 Productions. This ushered in a more professional team, making it even more lucrative for investment opportunity. The next two outputs from Century 21 Productions were the obviously child-aimed Joe 90, which had a 9-year-old boy at the heart of the action, and the strange live-action and supermarionation hybrid, The Secret Service, with a bishop doubling as a secret agent. It was then that Lou Gray told Gerry the news he had been waiting to hear. He was to move to live action. UFO hit the adult market like a house on fire, with adult storylines and even more amazing special effects than ever before. Before a second series went into production, funding was cancelled. However, the new production plans were moved to a new series, saving time and money thanks to Anderson's intervention with Gray. Space 1999 catapulted the moon out of orbit and into adventure. The series ran until 1977, when the production company flew the nest, leaving their mark on the big wide world. After lengthy divorce cases which had cost Anderson his entire fortune, he was left struggling to rent a flat using 2 jumpers instead of central heating. Anderson may have been down, but he certainly wasn't out. Some smaller, less well-known series that paid the bills for his new family followed from Gerry Anderson, although they were nonetheless advanced, with Space Precinct costing $3 million to make. But by the 1990s, some old friends would go once again, with a surprise revival and sheer delight from a new generation of fans as Thunderbirds was go once again. Demand outstripped supply as children went mad for it, beating the children's shows of the time, like Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, by a pink Rolls Royce. So, as a new generation became aware of this space-age master of the screen, Anderson picked the exact right moment to pitch a revival of a much-loved classic. Made in hypermarionation, Gerry Anderson's new Captain Scarlet hit the screens of CITV in 2005. But with so many old fans, the series was fully appreciated, which was more than can be said for the live-action Thunderbirds movie, which Anderson stated was the biggest load of crap I've ever seen.
The creator of Thunderbirds and Joe 90, Gerry Anderson, has died aged 83. Mr. Anderson had been suffering from dementia for the last 2 years.
By 2008, Anderson had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, having time to start Gemini Force One, a series of science fiction books to begin publishing in 2014, before he sadly passed away. He was 83 and had made a fortune worth millions. Recently, ITV has announced a new series of Thunderbirds to be screened in 2015, with David Graham reprising his role of Parker, and ex-Bond girl Rosamund Pike voicing Lady Penelope. The horizon looks to be FAB for any Anderson fan.